We have a good bit of information that we need to cover today. The first thing we're going to talk about how the rest of this 0332 course is going to look. We are having our final exam this week on Thursday, as we've known about for a while, but we're using a new proctoring service in order to handle it. So I'm going to kind of work through that proctoring service with you, show you how it's going to go. Also, we need to talk about something called a student enrollment agreement. We need to talk about what your feelings are about going to the next course, the Math 1332 course. So we will cover that today. I have it all written out in Canvas, but I want to cover it live, of course. Okay, so first and foremost, if you go into Canvas for this course, Canvas is kind of where everything takes place. You're going to see this thing called the Student Enrollment Agreement. It is very simple. There's going to be a lot of wording to it. I'm going to explain the wording. Every student is going to need to take this. The module below it is your final exam module. This is going to have your information and instructions for taking the final exam. But this thing won't open until you have submitted the Student Enrollment Agreement. So what you'll do is you'll go in, it's just a survey you'll take. There's going to be 4 simple questions. First, you got to read all this crap. And then in the first question, leave your initials here. I'll go through all that stuff, but that's your first question. The second question, you're going to need to go find your current grade for this course, but you can just find that in the Canvas grade book. And you want the overall grade. You want what looks like your final grade right now, your overall grade that has averaged everything together. The third question is where you're going to select an option. So it's multiple choice. The fourth question, you're just going to write your name out completely. So be sure to answer all 4 questions completely. So this is what I'd normally do in a normal semester is I'd be handing out forms today for all of you to fill out and sign. That basically is just this information. And so you would be doing that today, but I decided to make it digital to make it easy because some of you aren't attending in person, which is totally fine. So first question, put your initials. Let's read it together. It's so wordy. It's very wordy. I apologize. I did not write up this form, but it is important. It's not wordy for no purpose. It's wordy because there's a lot of information that we got to share. By initialing here, I understand all the parameters for the co-requisite course, Math 0332/1332. Those prerequisites are as follows. This co-requisite course consists of 2 pairings, the 0332 portion that you take in the first half of the semester and the 1332 portion you take in the second half of the semester. We should have already known that. Here's how the grades work, and this is a bit confusing. Upon completing Math 0332, I will earn a grade of passing if my grade is a 70 or better. So after we take the final exam, after everything has already been, the dust has settled, which will be this Thursday. Thursday, the 0332 class is done. Once we do all of that, if you have a 70 or above, you're considered passing and you're going to get a P for passing. Now remember, this course doesn't count towards your GPA. This 0332 course, just the first half course, doesn't count for your GPA. It doesn't transfer anywhere. It's a course that is designed to prepare you for the 1332 course. And that's the real deal. That's the real McCoy. That's the one you want to pass. That's the one that's going to transfer to wherever you go after this, or if you stay here, whatever you need that for. So you can either get a P in this 0332 course. If you get below a 70, what you can do is you can still proceed onwards to the 1332 course in the second half. And what we'll do is we'll give you a grade of IP for this 0332 portion. If your grade is below 70 and you choose not to continue on to 1332, you'll get an F for the 0332 class. That's how you're graded. Upon completing 0332, I do not have to be passing to continue into the paired course 1332. Correct. Upon completing 0332, my grade will determine my options regarding 1332. I must choose one of the 3 options listed below. We'll go through those options. Earning a passing grade. So if you pass the 0332 portion and you get that P, and then you go on to 1332 and you end up failing it, well, you can then go into a new semester and just retake 1332 alone because you passed the 0332 class. You've said, hey, I've done the work that's necessary to prepare me for 1332. So again, this is confusing. I'm confusing myself just kind of saying it out loud. But if you're just following along and you're passing the course right now, these are kind of options that don't necessarily apply to you. If you're close to passing, you still have options as well. And then upon completing 1332, the second half course, you can get a standard letter grade of A, B, C, D, or F. There's no E. I don't know why we just skip over E. Yeah, it's discrimination against the letter E. My current grade in Math 0332, so that's just where you'll go. Look at your Canvas gradebook and just type that in. You can open a new tab of Canvas and have that open while you're taking this survey. You'll just put it in as a numerical grade. If it's over 70, you're passing at the moment. If it ends up being over 70, once the final exam's done, you're still passing. Moving right along, the next question is the real meat and potatoes. As if it already wasn't verbose enough, here's the real meat and potatoes. You're gonna select 3 options from 3 options. If you're currently passing 0332, if you have more than a 70 and you just plan on taking 1332, take option 1 and you're done. Take option 1 and then go sign this sucker. Just literally type out your name. Options 2 and 3 are if you are currently making below a 70, here's what your options are. If you're making below a 70 in the 0332 portion, or if you end up with below a 70 after the final, if you want to proceed into the 1332 class, you are welcome to. You will receive a grade of IP, which is in progress for the 0332 class. Then if you go and you pass that Math 1332 course by getting a D or better, a 60 or higher, we will retroactively go change your IP for the 0332 portion to a P for passing, and you'll have also passed the 1332 class. So you're if you're not passing right now, but you want to proceed, you're putting all your chips on the table that you will end up passing the 1332 class with a D or better. Now, I have to scare you. I have to give you a scare moment. If you're not quite passing right now and you choose to go on, you have to know that most people who do choose to go on, if they're not passing in the first class, end up failing the second class, because the second class is usually a little bit more intense than the first one. So if you're not passing now, the odds are you won't pass the second half course unless you kind of get it together or do what you got to do, put in more time and effort. You can still do this though. The thing is, if you are not passing the 0332 course and you go on to the 1332 course and then you fail that, you have kind of shot yourself in the foot. First of all, you already paid for these courses. You're not getting that money back. That's not how it works. And second of all, you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to retake 0332 or a separate developmental course. And then after that, retake 1332, its own standalone course. So you got to pay for 2 courses after this. It's very expensive to do that. So you really can't afford to mess around. Jason, you said you can't, well, he can't hear me now, so. Anywho, so that's just kind of the realism of this all. Option 3, look, if you're just not passing right now, and you're just not passing and you decide, you know what, I don't want to try and go on. I want to spend the second half of this fall semester taking a fallback course and reviewing the 0332 course, giving myself another chance to pass the 0332 portion. And then I'll be set up, if I pass it, to take 1332 next semester, maybe something like that. That's option 3. And so that's kind of like splitting the difference here. So again, if you're passing right now and want to move on to 1332, take option 1. If you're not passing but want to continue on to 1332, take option 2. If you're not passing and you want to take the second half of the semester to redo 0332, choose option 3. This isn't like official or anything. This is just us. Whoops. This is just us kind of getting your general thoughts here. You would still have to initiate this process. And then finally, you'll just sign the thing in the text box. Now, give me one moment to go look at something. Okay, so yeah, you'll need to go in there, you'll need to fill that out and give me your responses. Jason, can you still not hear me? Can you still not hear me in Zoom here? Everyone else is everyone else able to hear me in the Zoom room here? We having any technical issues? All right, you guys can hear me. So Jason, you may need to restart your computer and come back into Zoom. Something like that. Right. You can do it right now. It should be available to you right now. Your grade is updated. Your grade is already updated is with the most recent stuff put into it in Canvas. So you can go do that right now. If you're just passing and you want to go on, just pick option 1, fill out the rest of it. It should take 5 seconds. You don't have to read through it too horribly carefully. And so I would suspect most of you will take option 1 or 2. But if not, if you're making like below, especially below a 60 right now, you should really heavily consider option 3, because if you fail the 1332 portion, you are really shooting yourself in the foot, cost-wise. Just from a money and numbers perspective, that's a lot of money you're paying here. Okay, so that's that, and you can't take the final exam until you've filled that out and submitted it. Now, we're also going to look at the final exam announcement that I just posted. You should now be able to see it. The final exam announcement. If you're in Canvas, just go to your Canvas announcements. So let's talk about the final exam, how we're going to take it. As discussed in class, your final will be taken on Thursday, October 8th during our normal class meeting time. So during this time, we're going to be taking the final. Well, now that's different because you might remember from our previous exams, you were able to take it kind of any time during the day. Here, we got to take it during our specific time, our class meeting, because of certain restrictions on exam security. That's what I've been told. So, which makes sense. So we got to keep it in a limited window. What does that mean? Well, so we're not going to be meeting at all on Thursday. We will not be here in person. You will be taking the exam from home. It does work on Chromebooks now. So it did not work on Chromebooks previously, but this new system we're using called HonorLock is going to be usable with Chromebooks. So anyways, this will be an exam that is administered on MyLabs Plus. So you're going to be physically taking it in MyLabs Plus, but separately, you're also going to have this HonorLock system open as well. You're going to kind of have them in tandem. You can open them in multiple tabs here along the top, so to speak. If you're in MyLabs Plus, you'll find the exam under the Assignments tab. Now, if you try to click on the exam and start it without me, good luck, mister. You're going to get to a password screen that's going to stop you, and you don't know what the password is, and you shall never know the password, for it is not of your mind to understand. Well, you'll understand it, but not know it. What it's going to do is whenever you have HonorLock open, and you'll be able to see here, you should see the link to this thing called HonorLock here on the left-hand side of Canvas. Now, I have more links but you'll have less links than me, but you'll still should be able to see HonorLock here. Ooh. That's what you're going to click while you have MyLabs open in a separate tab. And what you're going to do is you're going to go through the HonorLock kind of startup for the final exam. It's going to do very similar to what Respondus Monitor did. You have to do a 360 of your room. You have to take a picture of you. You have to show your student ID and all that business. And at one point during the process, it's going to say, okay, I'm ready to put the password in. And so if you have the exam password screen already open, you click on let it put in the password, and HonorLock will magically put the password in for you without you ever knowing what the password is. That's basically our way of saying you're in HonorLock, because otherwise you couldn't take the exam at all. That's what it's going to be. And then you can start the exam, and it'll look just like something that's in MyLabs Plus, an exam. You won't get three submissions or attempts per problem like you did on that self-paced exam, which, by the way, the self-paced exam everyone did pretty well on. So just keep that in mind. HonorLock is just this new service. We literally, the whole college just got access to it yesterday. And I like to play with new technology. And so I'm decided to go ahead and go through with it. What else do y'all need to know about HonorLock? You won't be allowed to use any other websites. In fact, HonorLock's going to be recording your screen this time on top of recording you through your webcam. So there's that extra layer on it. You will need to use Google Chrome. That's the only browser that is compatible with HonorLock, because what it's going to do is it's going to install a Chrome extension, and it'll prompt you for that. It'll say, can I install this for you? And you say yes. And should be able to take care of it all on its own. Then in this module here, that will be opening up on Thursday, this final exam module, you had to have already submitted the student enrollment agreement. Then this module will open up. You have some explicit instructions in there. There's an HonorLock practice quiz you can take. It's going to make sure you have all the system settings that you need. It's going to walk you through it. And if you can take that practice quiz, you'll then be able to take the final exam. So I would take that practice quiz first. You also will have a point where you can submit your scratch work. The final exam is going to have 40 problems on it, and you have 110 minutes. Now, a good majority of those problems are pretty, like, they're quick. They're not like giant, long 30-minute escapades. They're pretty terse problems. Most people don't have a problem with the exam length from what we've taken in the past. So I know it sounds like a lot. It's definitely going to be our most difficult exam that we've taken here, but I don't think it'll be anything that'll make you cry. So yeah, that's that. Let's see, is there anything else we need to go over? You got to use Google Chrome. You can use the Chromebook to take it. You need to have a webcam. I feel like I'm reiterating things, talking. You got to submit your scratch work within 30 minutes of finishing the exam. To help you study, you can always access previous homework assignments on MyLabs Plus as long as you had started them before, when they were still open originally. You can go into the gradebook, you can do it, and then you can practice with those homework assignments, and you can literally tell it, give me a new problem that has different numbers, and you can practice again. It won't affect your homework grade. It will not change anything for any grades you've already had submitted. So that's kind of how you can practice for the exam. What we're going to do for the rest of today, we're going to have a final exam review, just like we had a review for the last exam. And I'm just going to field questions from you. You guys can ask me anything. And so that's how it'll work. So I know it's a whole lot of new system. I know it's an information just dump just right onto your lap here, but this is going to be the way forward. This is the way. The 12 tutorial hours that you need, thank you for asking. The 12 tutorial hours that you need to be done by noon on Thursday. Noon or 12:30, right before our class starts, basically on Thursday, right as we take the exam. So remember, you can fulfill that using the study plan feature in MyLabs Plus, or if you've been going to the Academic Support Center, I'll be emailing them and getting a summary of all the hours of all my students in this course. And if you do 9 hours on the study plan, 5 hours in the support center, that's 14 total hours, and you've got your 12. So it should be pretty straightforward. If you only have half of those hours, you get a 0. for the 5% of your final grade. It does not scale or anything. Remember, it's all or nothing. So it's only 5% of your final grade, and it's only for the 0332 portion. So if you don't get them, well, you're still able to take the 1332 class. It's not the end of the world, but you know, you still definitely want to try and pass this 0332 class. So I think everything's laid out. What I'm going to do is, while 12:30 hits and we're ready to take our exam, I'm going to be sitting right by my computer. And if you have technical issues, we can Zoom together and I can get you through them if so. If the Academic Support Center hasn't told you your hours, that's a good question. Technically, you'll wanted to have recorded the number of hours that you've had with the Academic Support Center up till now. But that's a good question. Just try emailing them again, try again. And I can tell you how many hours you've had in the study plan. So yeah, that's the best thing. Remember, you just, never mind. Just, yeah, I would try to reach out to the Academic Support Center. I'm not sure why they are not. The Academic Support Center is, if you go, where are we? It's that way. It's all the way that way. You have to go outside to the LART building and you have to go downstairs. Yeah, exactly. It's the tutoring center. Yeah. Yep. It's another word for the tutoring center. Yep. And they used to be walk-in, or excuse me, they used to be appointment only, but now they're walk-in, I believe. So you can get your hours that way. Okay, if they're not telling you, just shoot me an email, Madeline, and I'll reach out to them and hopefully they'll answer my question with a little more expediency. Okay. So what other questions do you have for me concerning the final exam, things that are going on? I know I just dumped a whole lot of information on y'all. First of all, Jason, are you able to hear me? Can you hear me now? If not, I'm not quite sure what's going on. But at any rate, what we're going to do now, so we know how the final exam is going to be taken. We know we need to get our 12 hours in by Thursday before we start the exam. We know, we know we're taking the exam. We know we're taking the exam during our normal class meeting on Thursday, meeting time. If you guys have any other questions, let me know. You can go ahead and get your questions for the review pulled up. What questions do you have for me? What math questions? We can work on some of these new homework assignments that are due Thursday. The final exam covers the entire course, the entire 0332 course. Nothing's left out, even the material that's due Thursday. What's that? Yeah, it's just for Honor Guard, or excuse me, Honor Lock, to see if your system settings are good for it and everything. So it does not count as like a review for the exam or anything. So yeah, go ahead and pull up your questions that you have for me. Okay, the graphing questions we had in MyLabs Plus, can you be more specific? What are some of the specifics that you would need help on that one? Was it like linear ones? I'm also going to take attendance real quick. Okay, so we will do one of those. Let me take attendance real quick, and we'll do one of those where you have to graph things and do shading. Let me take attendance. And we'll work on those. Gabriella, is Courtney with you? I know you guys will Zoom together. Hey, we had perfect attendance today. Very good. Oh, okay. Thank you for letting me know. All right, so I'm going to pull up a shading problem and we'll work it together. How many of you are excited for Halloween? Anyone? Anyone excited? Yeah, Halloween. I know trick-or-treating is going to be kind of tough this year with the social distancing and the COVID, but I'm going to try and go trick-or-treating with either my nephew who's 6. I'm not going to go trick-or-treating by myself as an adult man. I'm going to dress up. Absolutely. It's Halloween. My girlfriend and I, we're going to try and plan something out together. She wanted to be the main female lead from Phantom of the Opera and me be the Phantom of the Opera. And I told her, I said, is that a musical? Because I don't believe in musicals. All right. Musicals offend me. So that is a good question, what we're going to be. She'll probably just say, you know, please do it anyways. And so we'll see about that. So let's see, let's do a graphing problem. Okay. Maybe a Halloween themed graphing problem with pumpkins, which that's not something I have any control over, but that doesn't mean I wouldn't like to try it in theory. Okay. So we want to graph the following inequality, x plus y less than or equal to 4. This is going to be a relatively simple one. This is going to be relatively simple. So we have x plus y greater than or equal to 4. Now remember, the first thing we'll want to do, we want to treat this like an equation. Just for pretend, just for play. We're going to treat it like an equation. We know it's a linear equation, and we're going to graph the line that goes with that. So we have, oh boy, come on. X plus y equals 4. We're going to move the x over to the other side and write it first. So if I subtract x over, I'm going to have negative x plus 4. Now let's analyze this. This is a line with a slope. The value in front of x is just a negative, but it's implied 1 there. So it's actually a slope of negative 1. So for every 1 unit I go to the right, my line falls 1 unit. The y-intercept, which is always a coordinate and always has an x value of 0. My y-intercept is 0, comma, whatever this number is, which in this case is positive 4. All right, so now let's go back and let's graph that bad boy. Here we are. We will enlarge the graph, which somehow made it smaller. So it's negative x plus 4. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to select my line tool. My line tool here. I'm going to go and I'm going to look for the point 0, 4, and I'm going to click it. And that's going to be 1 point on the graph. And now I can figure out where my next point's going to be. But remember, the slope was negative 1. So for every 1 unit I go to the right, I go down 1 unit. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. So this is going to be the line itself. Now, if my original inequality had been strictly less than or strictly greater than, I would use a dashed line. So I would come over here and make it dashed. Well, whenever I selected the line. So there we go. I can make it a dashed line this way. But since this is a less than or equal to, it's going to stay that solid line that we originally graphed. So we're good there. But now it's an inequality. So I got to determine whether I'm shading above the graph or below the graph. So what I'm going to do is I got to pick a test point. I can pick any point I want in the entire XY coordinate plane except something that's on the line itself. But I can pick all this up Shmuel, or I can pick a point from down Shmuel. It doesn't matter where you pick the point. So I'm going to pick the easiest point, which is the origin 0, 0. If the line had crossed through the origin, I couldn't use that one, but that's not the case here. So my point is going to be 0, 0. So I'm going to test that by plugging 0 in for x, 0 in for y, and seeing if I get a true statement in the original inequality. We're no longer dealing with the equation because that was just to help me graph the line, which we've already done. So I put a 0 in for x, a 0 in for y. I'm going to end up with 0 plus 0 greater than or equal to 4. And now that I'm testing it, I'm asking, is that the truth? What's 0 plus 0? 0, yeah. 0 greater than or equal to 4 is now the question I'm asking. Is that a true statement? Is 0 greater than or equal to 4? No, of course not. This is clearly false. So when I go back to the graph here, when I go back and look to the graph, this is where that test point was. It was the region below the line. Since it was false, it's actually the region above the line I got to shade. So I pick my paintbrush and I click above it, shade it, save it. And yeah, I know. Determining the graph of the corresponding. Hold on. No, this is correct. Graph of following inequality. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I wrote it down wrong. I wrote greater than or equal to. I apologize. So that was my mistake way at the get-go. It was supposed to be less than or equal to. Less than or equal to. So I literally just wrote it down wrong. So actually, all this becomes greater than or equal to, excuse me, less than or equal to 4. And now that's actually a true statement. 0 is indeed less than or equal to 4. So this is a true statement. Happy polylogy. We still graphed the correct line. That's not a problem. And now when I go over here, I need to unshade this region. I'll just remake the line real quick. And now I need to shade below it. And it liked that one. Okay, so I literally just wrote the sign wrong on the whiteboard. I apologize. But that would have been the process had that been x plus y greater than or equal to 4. Let's try another one. Let me find one that's perhaps a little bit more nasty. Yeah, let's do a system of linear inequalities. I like that. This one didn't seem to have that, so let's find one real quick. Gabriella, do you have a specific homework problem where we had that, where you had multiple inequalities or equations? Because I didn't see one in there. Like a homework section, or mute that real quick. There was not one found in there. Okay, it might have been on the test that we took. Okay, so I'll go ahead and look for it there. Graph a system of linear inequalities in 2 variables. Okay, so number 14 on the test, on that self-paced exam. It says Courtney is in the meeting with us, Gabriella. I see her. I had to let her in a second ago, but it says she's in it, and I just went and counted her present. Okay. So now what we have to do is going to be a little bit different. So let's take a peek. Let's take a gander. Now, this time around, it wants you to graph the solution set for a system of inequalities. A system. So we have 3x plus 6y less than or equal to 6. Okay, perfect. We have 3x plus 6y less than or equal to 6 and 5x plus y less than or equal to 10. So I'm going to take a picture of that so that I don't screw it up. Then I'm going to show you how it will look on a graph. Okay, so our system, not of a down, but our system of linear inequalities here is going to be 3x plus 6y less than or equal to 6. And then the second equation of our system is going to be 5x plus y less than or equal to 10. As you can see there. Let's do each one, and we're going to end up graphing them on the same system. We're going to graph them on the same graph. So first we have to deal with this one. We need to first treat it like it's an equation, just for the purpose of actually graphing the line itself. So I'm going to move the 3x to the other side. So I'm going to end up with 6y equals, I'm going to write it first, negative 3x plus 6. Then I'm going to divide everything by 6, the number in front of y. So I can get y by itself. That's going to be negative 3 over 6x plus 6 over 6 we reduce those fractions. You're going to get y equals negative 1/2 x plus 1. Negative 1/2 x plus 1. So now this is a line with a slope of negative 1/2. So every 2 units I go to the right, the line falls 1 unit. And then it has a y-intercept of 0, 1. So negative 1/2 x plus 1, let's graph it. Use the line tool. It crosses at 0, 1. Then for every 2 units I go to the right, it falls 1 unit. So there's the line itself. Then on top of that, it's using the less than or equal to, so I keep it with this nice solid line. I don't switch teams to the dashed line. I keep it with a nice solid line. Now I have to decide whether to shade above or below. So once again, I need to pick a test point. I'm going to pick 0, 0 as a test point again, because it's not on the line. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to go back to the original inequality. I'm going to test 0, 0. All right, so I put a 0 in for x, put 0 in for y. Oh, that's just convenient. I'm going to end up with 0 plus 0 on the left, so just 0. 0 less than or equal to 6, which is a true statement. So what I'm going to end up doing is I've already graphed the line on MyLabs Plus. What I would need to do is I would need to shade, well, 0, 0 was this point right here, the origin. So I would need to shade this entire area below the line. But I'm not going to do it just yet, because the region I'm actually going to end up shading is the region that agrees for both of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up shading below this line. I'll remember that as a little hint and a wink to myself. So now it's a system of linear inequalities, meaning that I graph everything in the system on the same line or on the same graph. So now I'm going to graph this, 5x plus y less than or equal to 10. So first you pretend it's the equation, 5x plus y equals 10. Move the 5x over, y equals negative 5x plus 10. Y equals negative 5x plus 10. So now this is a line with a slope of negative 5 and a y-intercept of 0, 10. So for every 1 unit I move to the right, the line falls 5 units. So here's how it's going to look. The second line will cross at 0, 10, all the way at the top. And then for every 1 unit I go to the right, it's going to fall 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. So there's the second line here. So now I've graphed them both on the same. And since it's less than or equal to 10, I still use a nice solid line here. So they're both solid lines. Now I have to determine where to shade. Once again, this line doesn't pass through the origin, so I'm going to let the origin be my test point, the 0, 0. So I'm going to test, once again, 0, 0 into my inequality. So let's see, I'm going to have 5 times 0 plus 0 for y less than or equal to 10. That still just becomes a 0 on the left-hand side, less than or equal to 10, which is a true statement. Thus, I'm shading below the first line. I'm also, if you go back to the equation, to the original graph, I also need to shade below the second line. I need to shade this area below this line here. So I'm shading below this line. So now here's where we're going to bring it all together. I need to shade the region because this is a system. It has to make both inequalities happen, or happy, excuse me. So I would need to, normally I would need to shade this region because it's below this first line. I would need to shade this region because it's below this second line. But what I need to do is shade the region that is below both the lines. And thus I shade this region. I omit this region because it's true for one of the lines, but not the other. I omit this region because it's true for one of the lines, but not the other. I omit this region because it's true for neither line, but I shade this region because it's true for both lines. And there you go. Yay. So a good question there, very good question there. All right, someone else had mentioned, struggled with the last 2 exams. What else do you guys have for me? What else? What other concepts? So the nice thing about those questions was not only did we review how to graph a line, we also reviewed how to graph a linear inequality. We also reviewed how to graph a system of linear inequalities. So it kind of all works out for everyone there. What else do y'all have? Anyone here in person? You are free to ask me. Absolutely. So the question now, 28% of what number is 53? 53.2. So we'll put that there. Huh? So we're dealing with percents, so we want to bring up the percent equation. And we read that A is P% of B. So 28% of what number is 53.2? Let's write out what we have. We have A, we need P, and we need B. A is P% of B. So we already know that A here is 53.2. Because 53.2 is what you get after taking the percent. P is that percent, 28%, but we have to write it as a decimal when we're doing the actual math. And now B is what we don't know. Because it says of what number, and of kind of is attached with the B here. So just kind of setting this one up, just using the formula, 53.2 equals 0.28 times with the number we don't know, which is B. And now we need to solve for B. Okay, so what are we going to do in order to solve for B? What do we have to do here? Divide both sides by the 0.28, don't we? Exactly. So I'm going to divide by 0.28 on, is it both sides? So this is what I'm really doing here. This is the meat and potatoes of it. Whoa. So I'm going to be dividing 0.28 into 53.2. And this might come out nasty. If it does come out nasty, that's okay. We can deal with it. Remember, we know how to kind of deal with these problems. The first thing I need to do, I need to move the decimal point in my divisor, however many spaces it takes until it's now a whole number. 1, 2 spaces. So it ends up being 28. That's dividing into. Now I can't just move it in the divisor. I also have to move it 2 spaces here in the dividend, the thing being divided. And I'd fill in a 0 for any blanks. So that's going to be 5,320. And whatever answer we get here, it would have been the same as we would have gotten here. Ooh. All right, so let's do it. Let me move things around so I can have some space. All right, so let's do the division. 28 won't go into 5. It'll go into 53. Now, we'll definitely go in at least once. It might go in twice. So let's see, 28 times, how about 2? But what you're going to see is that's 56, which is a bit too much. So 28 will go into 53 one time. We subtract off 1 times 28, which is 28. And now if I do 53 minus 28, I'm going to get 25. Now I bring down the 2, and I get 252. So now 28 goes into 252 how many times? Oh gosh. Let's try 8. About 8. I know 28 times 10 is 280, so I have to go closer to 10. And I'll give 4, 6, 8 times 2 is 16, 224. Okay, maybe we can go one larger than that. Get out of here. And I think we can. And I think it's going to come out nice and clean. Just so fresh, so clean. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 2 is 18, plus 7 is 25. So it ends up being, it's 252 on the dot. Oh, happiest of days. We're going to put a 9 here. And then minus 28 times 9 is 252, as we just discovered. And oh goodness, that's just a 0. Now we're not done. We can't say that 0 is the remainder because we still have business we need to bring down. So we got to bring down this last 0. And we're going to say 28 goes into 0, well, 0 times. And now we can say we're done because there's nothing left to bring down. We could do one more step, say minus 28 times 0, and that's our remainder of 0. But long story short, 190 is going to be the answer here. And so B, not be aggressive, but just B, is 190. And that's our answer. So 28% of what number is 53.2? Oh, it's 190. 28% of 190 is 53.2. Mm-hmm. And no, I totally understand this. The number, so like for instance, think of the number 60. Half of 60 is 30, right? So 30 is 50% of 60. And in order to do that, we would take 50%, which is 0.5, and multiply it by 60, and that would give us 30. What is funny is that I actually don't usually teach percent equation myself. It's supposed to be the simple way, and I've found that it actually kind of causes a bit more confusion. But the problem is with this particular one, you might have been tempted to just take 28% of 53.2. In other words, do 53.2 times 0.28, which is not proper. We needed to do 53.2 divided by 0.28. So in order to get around that, we kind of just appeal to this percent equation. So it's kind of like, 6 of one, half dozen of another. What have you done in the past to talk about percents, or how would you remember it? Yeah, there's always different ways. Of course, my method is the best way. No, that's not true, but it is true. Basically, this is an equation that helps. The way we describe it, A is P percent of B. The word is makes us think of equal sign. If you say it's is, you're saying it's equal to secretly. The word of actually makes us think of multiplication. And that might be the most confusing part, but if you say you have 3 groups of 2, you have 6 total objects because you do 3 times 2. Or if you say you have 17 groups of 5, the total number of objects you have is 17, the number of groups, times the amount of objects you have in each group. So the word of is kind of just one of our keywords for multiplication in mathematics. But yes, it is a bit confusing. So do you feel confident that you could have found the answer here without trying to use this percent equation crap? You know what I say? If you think if you're confident you could have already done it, don't use this percent equation. Do what is right for you. As long as it's the correct method and it comes out to the right answer, and not by a coincidence, but there's actual good math behind it, you're fine. If you have a system for doing some of this math that you're already comfortable with, like adding 2 negative numbers, adding a positive and a negative number, and this new, however we teach it in this class, just makes it more confusing, ignore what I say. Do it the way that's right for you as long as it's correct. I'm not going to think twice about it. Now, some of these methods that we do learn are usually actually the most, they may not always be the simplest, but they're the ones that rely least on just memorizing math equations and crap. These are the methods that are designed to actually teach you what's going on here. But sometimes it's not always as intuitive. I'll give you that. I will give you that. So, any other questions for me? General concepts or kernel concepts, which then will get promoted to general concepts in any military command structure, except the Navy. The Navy, they do captain. Captain is their 6th rank, right before admiral. And most of you are looking at me and you're like, what is it? What is he talking about? The only reason I know Navy ranks is because Star Trek uses the same ranks as the current U.S. Navy. So that's how I know. Ensign, lieutenant, commander, and all that business. Any other questions for me? You're also free as you're studying for the final exam. You can shoot me an email. Shoot me an email message. I'll answer your email, and I think I can describe it pretty well in email. Is it clear that you need to fill out that form that says, are you going to go forward with 1332 or not? I know it's a lot of words. I'm Mr. Keep It Simple, and sometimes things just have to be very detailed. So if it's clear that you got to fill out that form, you can do it now. It's already open, and once you do it, it should automatically, the final exam module shouldn't give you any problems. The form slater is found in the Canvas modules. If you just go to the Canvas for this page, click on modules, you can scroll down and you'll see a module for student enrollment agreement. You'll click that. You can read through the details. We went through it at the beginning of class, but you can read through that. Already done. Very good. Yeah, it's very simple. If you're passing the course right now and you plan to go to 1332, pick option 1, put your initials for the first question, put your grade on the second question, sign it at the bottom with your name. It should take like 13 seconds. No worries, Slater. You're good to go. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's a quick form. And then our final exam's Thursday. I'll be standing by, so if there are issues, I'm here. I'm not absconding to Alaska. Maybe in my mind I'll be in Alaska, and I'm just going to be a wild man living in the woods. A wild man living in the woods, staying warm with fire, catching fish. And most of you are like, Mr. Gunther, can you please shut up because we want to go. So do you guys have any other questions? Anything else you need to clarify? Okay, well, I'm good to call it. If you guys are, we'll see you Thursday for the final. We're not actually meeting in class or even in Zoom, but if you do need help getting things set up with HonorLock, just let me know. No, yeah, you don't even have to come to Zoom at all. You're just going to be taking the HonorLock class, but you have to take it in this time window, the same on Thursday. So thank you all. Can you please make the final easy? Well, I don't actually make the final. So you'll have to appeal to a higher authority, God or country. I'll give you a crisp high five if I do the exam for you. Well, that would be bribery and not something I'm allowed. So y'all have a great day and good luck on the final Thursday. I'll be standing by.